Today, I'm taking you inside the fantastic National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, one of the top places to visit in the Bahamas and one of the best museums in the entire Caribbean region. Located in the capital city of Nassau, the essence of island life unfolds here through powerful, locally created masterpieces. In this beautiful old mansion-turned museum, you'll find pieces crafted from driftwood and limestone, vibrant paintings, and items that capture the everyday moments of island living. You'll see how nature, both serene and tempestuous, shapes the art and lives of the Bahamian people. Discover how it all intertwines as we delve into the heart of the Bahamas, one masterpiece at a time. So in 2019, there was a hurricane named Dorian that devastated parts of the Bahamas. Abaco and Grand Bahama, which is one of the larger islands. So this is a tribute to that. These are the roots, and it's meant to kind of symbolize roots, stability, and what can happen to that in a natural disaster like a hurricane. You also see some of these photos because this exhibit was made from a tree that survived the storm, and it used to stand at the center of a school. So they did a little bit of a sculpture on the tree there as well. It says, "This monument comprises the remains of a poor man's orchid tree that survived the storm." So most of this permanent exhibit is made by the Bahamian artist Antonius Roberts. This part is called Sacred Space. It was a collaboration with a guy named Tyrone Ferguson. It says here these are carved figures out of hurricane-battered trees from a former plantation that was also the site of a native village. The reason it's titled Sacred Space is because what was once a plantation, what was once a native village, now being transformed into some sort of resort or gated community, and there were protests there. So these kind of washed up pieces of trees were transformed into pieces of art that represent the different cultures and the different people that lived and contributed their unique styles of way of life and their unique way of architecture, from Haitians to Bahamians. And these wood sculptures are made to reflect that. So here you can really see, what I like specifically about this exhibit in the Bahamian National Gallery is that this permanent area focuses on an artist that uses materials that are Bahamian, the wood that has been affected by the Bahamian environment, and that also very much reflects the Bahamian culture and the closeness to nature, because everything is connected to water, the sea, the land, and the different people who lived here. There's definitely very much an awareness of that that's brought to the forefront here in the National Gallery of the Bahamas. The curators did a really nice job at this museum. It is self-guided, but what they say is very brief, but very beautiful, very interesting, and very succinct. It says here that this whole area is called ebb tides, which is work that's created out of pieces that have been affected by the sea and the hurricanes of the sea. And what it says here is, it is a site of historical reflection, Caribbean connection, and existential threat. So the myth and the lore and the beauty of the Bahamas and the Caribbean is all connected to the sea. And at the same time, the sea being a source of life and a source of fish and a source of nature around, it is also the source of the greatest threat: the hurricanes, the rising sea levels, and environmental change. Antonius Roberts, who is the artist of the paintings and the sculptures in the permanent exhibition, started to miss home when he was away studying painting, and he missed the calming blue waters of the Bahamas, the beats, the rhythms, the Junkanoo Festival. So he painted these paintings as a reminiscence of ordinary people from the Bahamas. Here we see that same artist, Antonius Roberts, working with limestone, which, as you remember from the karst topography of the area, is a major geologic feature of the Bahamas. And the sign here points out that most of the limestone, the sacred rock, was quarried at one point by the very hard work of black men. This is a particularly lovely gallery here in the National Gallery of the Bahamas. It's also by Antonius Roberts, and it reflects the Lucayan, which was the indigenous community. So his artwork here is made out of local materials, which include native wood and fused glass, which also comes from sand, and it reflects the canoes and the heritage of the indigenous Lucayans, kind of fused with his vision of beauty. It's pretty cool. Look at that. So Robert sees the celebration of nature and trees as part of the beauty that is carried on in the spirit of the Bahamas, even though the Lucayans, who were the native people that lived on the Bahamas, are pretty much extinct on the Bahamas. They were basically removed from the Bahamas by the Spanish and taken and made into slaves in the first Spanish settlements over on Hispaniola. So the people that live in the Bahamas now are generally not genetically descendants of the Lucayans, but spiritually and culturally perhaps, and that's what this is reflecting on. The National Gallery here in the Bahamas is not very big, but it is worth it to pop in even if you only have an hour. It's wonderfully air conditioned, it's in a beautiful old historic building, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of the Bahamian pride in both the diverse influences of their culture and in their local artists. It's a beautiful space and you will have a lot of it to yourself. This makes me kind of want to jump in a canoe. Don't you want to jump in one of those beautiful canoes with a glass bottom, a stained glass bottom, and see the fish and the beautiful blue ocean beneath you? It's a lovely room. The islands of the Bahamas are affectionately known as the Isles of June, and I can see why. Even as it's getting a little bit warmer, We're at the end of May. There's still a fresh, sweet breeze coming across. It would have been something else to live in a house like this and stand on one of these verandas that would have wrapped around the entire house. So you could get the breeze coming from whichever direction you wanted, the sun coming from whichever direction you wanted. It would have been quite the lush life for the wealthy Bahamians hundreds of years ago, even 100 years ago. So outside of the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, the NAGB, is the sculpture garden. I think it's really cool that they have native tree placards. So this one says the cinnamon bark tree. It's from the Lucayan Archipelago, South Florida, the Greater Antilles. Update that to make it a little more valuable to the museum goer. But one cool thing about this park is they do have more of the Roberts artwork. So here's one example right here. Wood and metal. So you can see a lot of this is that repurposed materials made into art, given almost an anthropomorphic form. It's almost like a human, right? So the interaction between humans and ships and wood and metal. Thanks for joining me on this captivating tour of the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. If you loved exploring Bahamian art and culture, don't miss my next video on the historic walking tour of downtown Nassau. It's packed with fascinating stories and hidden gems. Or check out my exciting series, Path of Christopher Columbus, where I go all the way from Spain to where he landed in the New World. Hit that like button, subscribe, and please drop a comment. I can't wait to hear your thoughts and connect with you on this amazing journey. See you in the next adventure.